Honored to stand and speak to Bill C-295, an act to amend the Criminal Code, Neglect of Vulnerable Adults. The reason I wanted to speak on this bill is that my grandmother passed away in September. In fact, on December 9th, this Saturday, it would have been her 96th birthday. In 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, I remember my grandmother, we call her Oma because I'm of Dutch heritage, my Oma being pretty lively, still having her wits about her. She could sing songs in Dutch and English, and really participated in our family life as we all so much enjoyed and cherished, like many other families do across Canada with their elders. When the pandemic came, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, we all had to make some hard decisions regarding the treatment of my grandmother in our family home where she resided. And for a period of time, to protect her, she was isolated from the broader community that had sustained her life in such a positive way, really since she immigrated to Canada in the 1950s. Long story short, like many families across Canada, my grandmother's dementia accelerated at a very quick rate once she was isolated from those that she loved. When I first got elected to Parliament, we heard from at the HUMA committee about from experts in geriatric care that might be one of the biggest mistakes we made during the pandemic, was separating seniors from those that they loved. So going back to my grandmother, she's isolated in her home, and her mental health deteriorated very quickly. And my aunts and uncles and my mother being her primary caregiver, had to make the difficult choice to put her into an assisted living facility, one that would be covered under Bill C-295. And I have to say, I was very pleased with the quality of care that my grandmothers received at the Chartwell facility in Mission. They were loving, they were conscientious, and they did everything to protect my grandmother. That's positive. When she was there, though, her dementia continued to accelerate, and it got worse and worse, and she could no longer stay in an independent living facility with her meals provided, and they had to make the very difficult decision to put her into a long-term care facility. Now, what I'm about to say is a little brash, but it's a fact. When children make a decision to put their parent into a long-term care facility, it's almost like a death sentence. They know that's the last place they're going to go. And for children to make that decision for their parent, it's one of the hardest things that they're going to have to do throughout their life. Canadians believe in the healthcare workers at our long-term healthcare facilities. They believe that those people have the best interests of vulnerable Canadians at heart. They believe and trust that our systems are going to work to make sure that the quality of life for those that they're responsible for is upheld in a dignified way that respects the human dignity of that individual. Unfortunately, that's not the case at all long-term care facilities across Canada, and all of us read and heard and experienced the horror stories that people talked about during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially when loved ones were separated from their seniors. Now, let me be very clear. That was not the case with my family, but like many other MPs across this country, we heard from families that had those negative experiences. So for that reason, I'm supporting the intention of this bill and supporting this legislation, because it gets to the essence of a very big fear that many children have for their parents, and that is, will they be protected? Will their human dignity be upheld when they can't be with them and they have to trust a stranger at a medical facility to the care of their parent? So the amendment made into paragraph 215(2)(b) With respect to a duty imposed by paragraph 1, B1 or C, the failure to perform the duty endangers the life of the person to whom the duty is owed or causes or is likely to cause the health of that person to be injured permanently. It goes on under the prohibition order to outline that an owner or officer, as the Member of Parliament spoke before, would be responsible in those conditions. So this bill sends out a signal to long-term care facilities that maybe haven't gotten it right, that not getting it right is not good enough. We always need to ensure that our most vulnerable citizens, our seniors who have devoted their life to this country, receive the type of care that they need. For me and my children, it's a daunting experience when you go into some of those facilities. Many seniors, unlike my grandmother, unfortunately don't have that large support system to protect them. They don't have, they don't come from a large family like mine where there's 20 cousins, 20 grandchildren, another 20 great-grandchildren, and 6 siblings to spread out the work and make sure that someone's there every day to watch out. That's neat, and not every family has that. Not every senior is blessed with a large family like that. And that's why this bill is important, because sometimes seniors may only have one advocate, and that person may still be working a full-time job or have other responsibilities, and they can't be there every day. But when they do show up and they see that something's wrong, they're going to know that laws in Canada are there, both federally and provincially, as outlined in this legislation, to ensure that there is a mechanism in the case of abuse or neglect, that there is a mechanism to protect that senior and to make sure that our laws are in place to safeguard them if a horrible situation does occur. So yes, we have so much to do, mostly at the provincial level in this country, to uphold the dignity of seniors at the vulnerable stages of their life that they encounter upon entering an assisted living facility or a long-term care facility that this bill addresses. So I do acknowledge certain apprehensions that came forward in the witness testimony. I believe the essence of this bill, through a collaborative approach that I've heard about from my colleagues, that this bill is worth supporting to send a signal that we need to do more to protect our vulnerable seniors, to ensure their quality of life at the end. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.